Rick here from Hamilton Sports Central. We're going to be doing our watch-along for the Toronto Argonauts at Saskatchewan from Friday night because we had the draft Friday night. So we are going to do this today. Before we get into this game, we will also be doing the 7 o'clock game tonight between the Ottawa Redblacks and the Montreal Alouettes. But before we start off, I just want to go ahead and thank a few people. This live stream is brought to you proudly sponsored by KPHR Radio, Hamilton's home for the classic rock. If you like rock anthems, great on-air personalities, and community-focused programming, please tune in to KPHR Radio. Listen live and discover all of their shows, music, and more by visiting katradiogroup.ca. Thank you to KPHR Radio for supporting Hamilton Sports Central and help bringing you today's live stream. So we are going to be bringing you, like I said, the Toronto-Saskatchewan game from Sunday night. We bring Chad Kelly against Trevor Harris, the 1-1 Toronto Argonauts against the 2-0 Roughriders, who have been unstoppable as of late. So we'll see how well they have done. I haven't watched this game. I haven't seen it. So we'll see how things go. But with that being said, we're just throwing on. Also, shout out to CFL Classics because they've put it on YouTube without the commercials. So it's going to be even easier to watch. CFL panel is in Kelowna for yesterday's Touchdown Kelowna game, which we did a live stream for. Go on, Enoch. Who's your matchup? His big plays are the receivers for the Toronto Argonauts. David Sanchez thinks the same thing. Mackay Pollock, over under 75.5 yards, plus 135 anytime touchdown. And Malt Stiegel's saying that the matchup he's looking at is the wide receivers versus the third safety in Saskatchewan. Malt saying it's supposed to be really windy in Regina when this happened anyways. Oh, AJ Ouellette's not playing, so that'll be interesting. Hi, Ilmer, Winnipeg. If 2 kickoffs are returned for touchdowns, you get $1 million. Dustin Nielsen, Luke Wilson as the play-by-play. Let's go. Friday night football tonight. We'll blow the Argos away. Welcome back. Our 16th anniversary. Go Argos, go. Luke Wilson is saying that Chad Kelly has been something special. Well, Luke, he hasn't played against Bo Levi Mitchell yet, so calm your horse. Slinging around interceptions. Corey Mace is 23 of 14 and 1. Career record 3-1 versus Toronto. Mike Miller got his first win as a CFL head coach with a win over Ottawa. Obviously, everyone's going to beat Ottawa right now. They're the worst team in the East. And Toronto's receiving the ball first. So Hale's going to kick it off 65 yards to Toronto 15. Janarian Grant, 16 yards, returns it to Toronto 31. Chad Kelly's 1-1, 67.9% completion, 869 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Hicks rushes for 61 yards to Saskatchewan 18, forward with the tackle. Kelly passes Coxie for 5 yards to Saskatchewan 13. Marcus Sales with the tackle. Ooh. Kelly throws interception to Woods at the Saskatchewan end zone. Woods returns it for 19 yards and is tackled by Nicastro. So that's his sixth interception on the season. Conley rushes for 0 yards. Saskatchewan 19. Dark Angel with the tackle. Harris is 2-0, 73.6 completion, 766 yards, and 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Harris is sacked for 6 yards to the Saskatchewan 13. Collingwood with the sack. So it's going to be 3rd and 16. Chapman returns it for 55 yards. Junior Garrett returns it for 68 yards for a touchdown for the Toronto Argonauts. Let's play our little. Oh, that's. So it's 7-0 for Toronto because they got the extra point. $14 kick return touchdowns in 75 CFL games. Lahu kicks off for 76 yards to Saskatchewan 4. Letcher returns it for 24 yards to 28. Harris passes to Keon Johnson for 4 yards to Saskatchewan 42. Benji Franklin with the tackle. Harris passes incomplete to Jay Johnson at the Toronto 51-yard line. So it's going to be 3rd and 6. Second, 2 and out. Chapman's coming on the field to punt again. There's a flag on the field. Chapman punts it for 36 yards to Toronto 42. Grant returns it for 5 yards to Toronto 41. Weeby with the tackle, and then Saskatchewan got a penalty for no yards, 15 yards from Straker. So they go from the Toronto 42 to the Saskatchewan 53. Girl, rock your voice. Hicks rushes for 2 yards to Saskatchewan 51. Woods with the tackle, and it's a penalty on Toronto for procedure. No end. 5 yards from the Saskatchewan 53 to the Toronto 52. Chad Kelly passes to Mattel for 12 yards to Saskatchewan 46. Fields with the tackle. So it's going to be 2nd and 10 from the Saskatchewan 46. On 2nd and 3, Kelly passes to Unger for 6 yards to Saskatchewan 40-yard line. Jameer Thurman with the tackle, so it's going to be a first down, Argos. Hicks rushes for 4 yards to Saskatchewan 36. Woods with the tackle, so it's going to be 2nd and 6. Kelly sacked for 7 yards to Saskatchewan 43. Mike Rose with the sack. So it's going to be 3rd and 14. Larham's going to go for a field goal here. So now that Toronto kicked the field goal, Saskatchewan's taking over at the 40. Thomas Bertrand Hudon rushes for 0 yards to Saskatchewan 40. Chatfield with the tackle. Harris passes to Emulus for 20 yards to the Toronto 50. Caesar with the tackle, so it's going to be a first down at the Toronto 50. Harris passes to Bertrand Hudon for 6 yards to the Toronto 44. Dark Angelo with the tackle, so it's going to be 2nd and 4. Harris passes to Bertrand Hudon for 0 yards to the Toronto 44. So it's going to be 2nd and 4, or 3rd and 4, I should say. 3rd and 4, and they're going for it on Toronto's 44. Harris passes to Schaefer Baker for 11 yards to the Toronto 33. Darius Pickett with the tackle. So it's a first down, Riders. Harris passes to Schaefer Baker for 12 yards to the Toronto 21. Wilson with the tackle, so it's going to be 1st and 10 for the Riders. Bertrand Hudon rushes for 6 yards to the Toronto 15. Hawley with the tackle. Harris passes to Schaefer Baker for 10 yards to the Toronto 5. Caesar with the tackle. So it's going to be first and goal from the Toronto 5. Saskatchewan's on a roll. Rolling. Right. Harris throws intercepted, or passes intercepted by Tavius McFadden at the Toronto 10. or in the end zone. So returns it for 0 yards. Tackled by MLS. Right in the hands of McFadden. My girl. Hey, 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 hey. I wanna know, will you be my girl? Kelly passes to Mattel for 26 yards to Saskatchewan 54. Woods with the tackle. Kelly passes to Polk for 16 yards to Saskatchewan 38. Eduardo with the tackle. Five of 6 for 65 yards. Less than 45 seconds to go. Kelly rushes for 8 yards to Saskatchewan 30, so it's going to be 2nd and 2. Hicks rushes for 4 yards to Saskatchewan 26. Hoskins with the tackle, so it's going to be a first down, Argos. So after the first quarter, Argos have 5 first downs, 65 passing yards, 77 rushing yards for 135 net yards, 1 turnover, and 6:31 of time of possession. Whereas Riders have 4 first downs, 63 passing yards, 6 rushing yards for net yards of 63, 1 turnover, and 8:29 of time of possession. So Riders 26-yard line. Kelly passes to Common for 9 yards to Saskatchewan 17, so it's going to be a 2nd and 1. Kelly rushes for 0 yards to Saskatchewan 17. So it's 3rd and 1. So Toronto is challenging this spot on the field. They're saying that they got the 1 yard. So the league is going to review the play. So Larham kicks a field goal. So it's 13-0. And they start at the 40-yard line. Conley rushes for 18 yards to the Toronto 52. Ojo with the tackle. Conley rushes for 1 yard to the Toronto 51. So it's going to be 2nd and 9. Harris passes to Emulis for 31 yards to the Toronto 20. Pickett with the tackle. It's going to be a 1st down, Riders. Harris passes to Schaefer Baker for 8 yards to the Toronto 12. Wilson with the tackle. So it's going to be 2nd and 2. Harris passes incomplete to Schaefer Baker in the end zone, broken up by Caesar. So it's going to be third and 2. Tommy Stevens is in, and he's going to go for it on 3rd and 2, and he gets the first down. Rushes for 4 yards to the Toronto 8. Chatfield with the tackle. Harris passes. Harris passes to Schaefer Baker for 4 yards to the Toronto 4. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson for 4 yards for a Rider touchdown. So that's 13-6. With this extra point, it would be 13-7 for Argos. Mm, 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 mm. Hale kicks off for 79 yards to the one. Grant returns it for 35 yards to Toronto 36. Kelly is sacked for 9 yards to Toronto 27, and it's offside. Toronto, but the penalties declined. So we got 2nd and 19. Kelly passes it incomplete to Common. So it's going to be 3rd and 19. As the punt team comes on to punt the ball. Mm-mm. Woohoo. Do, 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 do. Haggerty punts 51 yards to the Saskatchewan 32. MLS returns it for 20 yards to the Saskatchewan 52. Slywitka with the tackle. So it seems like maybe Letcher's injured if MLS is taking the returns. Bertrand Hudon rushes for 16 yards to the Toronto 42. Amos with the tackle. Bertrand Hudon rushes for 0 yards to the Toronto 42. Hawley with the tackle, so it's going to be 2nd and 10 from the Toronto 42. Harris passes to MLS for 10 yards to the Toronto 32. Wilson with the tackle, so it's going to be a first down, Riders. Just a little under 6 minutes to go in the second quarter. Harris passes to MLS for 4 yards to the Toronto 38. Judge with the tackle. So it's going to be 2nd and 6. Harris pass incomplete to Keon Johnson. So Saskatchewan has challenged a ruling on the play for roughing the passer. Just waiting for the refs to finish this challenge. So the ruling on the field stands. It'll be 3rd down, and Saskatchewan loses their challenge. So each team has one timeout for the rest of the game. Hale will attempt a 36-yard field goal, and it will make it a 3-point game if he gets it, and he gets it. So we got a 3-point game for Toronto has 13, Saskatchewan has 10, and they're going to start at the 40-yard line. So they're starting on the 40-yard line. So Kelly passes to Mackay Polk for 8 yards, the Toronto 48. So it's going to be 2nd and 2. Isaiah Smith rushes for 2 yards to Toronto 50. Eduardo with the tackle, so it's going to be first down for Toronto. Kelly sacked for a loss of 6 yards by Pate. So it's going to be 2nd and 16. 3 sacks for Riders so far, 1 for Toronto. Dun 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 dun. Kelly throws an incomplete pass to Common, broken up by Marcus Sales. So it's going to be 3rd and 16. Almost a block punt. Haggerty punts a 41-yard punt to the Saskatchewan 25. MLS returns for 39 or 14 yards to Saskatchewan 39. Darkangelo with the tackle. Now MLS is injured. So not only do you lose Letcher Jr., but you also lose MLS too. So it's going to be 1st and 10 at the Saskatchewan 39. Harris passes Keon Schaefer-Baker for 24 yards to the Toronto 47. Caesar with the tackle, so it's going to be first down for Saskatchewan. Conley rushes for 13 yards to Toronto 34. Wilson with the tackle, so it's going to be a first down. Toronto's Andrew Chatfield Jr. is now injured on the field. So it's first down on the Toronto 34 for Saskatchewan. Conley rushes for 5 yards to the Toronto 29. Dark Angelo with the tackle, so it's 2nd and 5. Just under 2 minutes left in the first half. Harris pass is incomplete to Jay Johnson, but there's a penalty on the play. So there's a penalty for Toronto's pass interference. Benji Franklin for 12 yards. So they go from the Toronto 29 to the Toronto 17, and it's a first down. So 1:56 left to go in the first half. Conley scores a touchdown, 17 yards. So Riders have scored 17 unanswered points as they take a 17-13 lead. Six carries, 54 yards, and a touchdown so far for Connolly. Hale's going to come on and kick it off, and Isaiah Smith is going to be back to return it. Hale's going to kick it off for 73 yards to the Toronto 7. Isaiah Smith is going to return it for 24 yards to the Toronto 31. Eduardo with the tackle. So it's going to be 1st and 10 at the Toronto 31. 1:44 left in the second quarter, and can Chad Kelly come back and score another touchdown? Hicks rushes for 3 yards to the Toronto 34. Vaughters with the tackle, so 2nd and 7. Kelly passes to Polk for 6 yards to the Toronto 40-yard line. Woods with the tackle. 3rd and 1. Toronto's going to come on and punt the ball. Haggerty plans for 50 yards to the Saskatchewan 20. Weeby returns it for 17 yards to the Saskatchewan 37. McKenzie with the tackle. So 1:03 left in the second quarter. Saskatchewan leads 17-13. Connolly rushes for a 1-yard loss to Saskatchewan 36. Pickett with the tackle. Second and 11. Harris pass is incomplete to Conley at the Saskatchewan 42, so it's going to be 3rd and 11. Chapman punts for 47 yards to the Toronto 27. Janierian Grant rushes for 19 yards to the Toronto 46. Chapman, the punter, with the tackle. 24 seconds left in the second quarter. 1st and 10 from the Toronto 46. Kelly passes Cokesy for 37 yards to Saskatchewan 27. Woods with the tackle. Kelly passes to Common for 27 yards for a touchdown. Common has a touchdown in each of his first 3 games. What a start to his career. Argos lead 20-17 going into halftime. Let's skip the halftime talk. Okay, so the Riders are kicking to the Argos. So they decided to take the wins because Argos started the ball with it in the first half. So Hale kicks off for 52 yards to the Toronto 28. Grant with a 12-yard return to the Toronto 40. Ford with the tackle. Chad Kelly, 11 for 14 and 158 yards, 1 touchdown, or 2 touchdowns and an interception. Actually, that's 1 touchdown because they only threw 1. Kelly passes to Polk for 6 yards to the Toronto 46. Brooks Jr. with the tackle. Kelly passes to Unger the third for 8 yards to the Toronto 54. And then Kelly passes to Unger again for 16 yards to Saskatchewan 40. Campbell with the tackle. There's a penalty on the play for illegal block, but because the yards are greater, it's declined. Kelly passes incomplete to Pollock, so it's going to be 2nd and 10 from the Saskatchewan 40. Chad Kelly passes incomplete to Common in the end zone, so it's going to be 3rd and 10 from the Saskatchewan 40. Larum comes on for a field goal. For a 47-yard field goal. So it's a 6-point Argo lead, 23-17, with 12:23 left in the third quarter. So Ledger's out for the rest of the game, and MLS is very unlikely to return. Conley rushes for a 3-yard loss to Saskatchewan 37, so it's going to be second and, well, TSN says second and 14, but it should be second and 13. Harris sacked for 8 yards to Saskatchewan 29. Chatfield. So it's going to be third and 21. Chapman with the punt of 33 yards to Toronto 48. Grant returns it for 4 yards to Toronto 52. Isaiah Smith rushes for 3-yard loss to the Toronto 49. Second and 13. Kelly throws to Common for 24 yards to Saskatchewan 37. Ford with the tackle. Kelly passes to Pollock for 10 yards to Saskatchewan 27. Marcus Sales with the tackle, so it's going to be first and 10 at the Saskatchewan 27. Kelly throws to Coxie for 25 yards to Saskatchewan 2. Campbell with the tackle, so it's going to be first down Argos. Kelly passes incomplete to Coxie. And then Kelly rushes for 2 yards to the end zone for a touchdown. So it's 29-17 for Saskatchewan. Laram comes on to kick the ball off. 73 yards to Saskatchewan 7. Jay Johnson returns it for 31 yards to Saskatchewan 38. There's a flag on the play. It's a hold on Miller Jr., 10 yards. So they go from Saskatchewan 30 to the Saskatchewan 20. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. 7:20 left in the third quarter. First and 10 on the 20. Harris passes to Mims for 4 yards to Saskatchewan 24. Deshaun Amos with a hit, or with the tackle, I should say. Harris passed to Weeby for 31 yards to Saskatchewan 55. Wilson with the tackle. Harris passes to Schaefer Baker for 5 yards to the Toronto 50. So it's going to be 2nd and 10. Travis McFadden with the tackle. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson for 12 yards to the Toronto 38. McFadden with the tackle, so it's going to be a first down, Riders. Johnson with the stiff arm to McFadden. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson for 7 yards to Toronto 31. Benji Franklin with the tackle. Harris to Keyshawn Johnson for 14 yards to the Toronto 17. Darius Pickett with the tackle. First down, Riders. Harris throws incomplete to Keyshawn Johnson, broken up by Caesar. So it's going to be second and 10 at the Toronto 17. Harris passes to Keon Schaefer-Baker for 15 yards to Toronto 2. Caesar with the tackle, so it's going to be first and goal from the Toronto 2. Stevens rushes for 1 yard to the Toronto 1. Chatfield Jr. with the tackle. Second and goal from the 1. Saskatchewan gets a touchdown now. Tommy Stevens rushes for 1 yard for the touchdown as Toronto gets a penalty for offside and it's declined. So at this extra point, it would make it a 6-point game, 30-24. This game's not over yet. Hale kicks the extra point. So 30-24 with a minute 4 left in the third. me just pause that for a second. So we are. So I won't. So this is about to die. So we are minute 21 left. So we gotta close this. Turn this off because we have to let it charge for tonight's game. So put that over there. We're gonna let it charge, and we are going to watch this from the phone. Classics. Nope, not that one. Nope, we don't want that. And we're gonna connect our headphones to this one. Let's go here and videos. This one and all right. There we go. So third quarter, minute 4 left as they're about to kick off to Toronto. This game is not over, and game's not over until that clock reaches 0 in the fourth quarter. Hale kicks off for 64 yards to the Toronto 16. Isaiah Smith returns for 20 yards to the Toronto 36. Eduardo with the tackle. Hicks rushes for 2 yards to the Toronto 38. Sanders with the tackle. 2nd and 8. Kelly passes to Hicks for 16 yards to Toronto 54. Brooks Jr. with the tackle. So after 3 quarters, Toronto has 257 passing yards. They have 83 rushing for 318 yards, 1 turnover, 18 minutes and 42 seconds of time of possession. Riders have 19 first downs, 236 passing yards, 78 rushing, and 300 net yards, 1 turnover, and 26-18 of time of possession. Down to last 15. Kelly throws incomplete to Common to the 25-yard line. However, there's roughing the passer, 15 yards on Rose. So they go from the Toronto 54 to the Saskatchewan 41, and it's a first down. Smith rushes for 8 yards to Saskatchewan 33. Thurman with the tackle. Kelly passes to David Unger for 10 yards to Saskatchewan 23. Ford with the tackle. First down, Toronto at the Saskatchewan 23-yard line. Kelly throws incomplete to Common, so it's 2nd and 10. Kelly sacked for 7 yards to Saskatchewan 30. Sad with the sack. Larm kicks a 38-yard field goal. So it makes it a 9-point lead. Harris passes to Conley for 9 yards to Saskatchewan 49. Darius Pickett with the tackle. Stevens rushes for 2 yards to Saskatchewan 51. Pickett with the tackle again, and they get the first down. So it's going to be 1st and 10 at the Saskatchewan 51. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson for 28 yards to the Toronto 31. Benji Franklin with the tackle. Harris passes to Mims for 9 yards to the Toronto 22. Caesar with the tackle. 2nd and 1. Harris rushes for 2 yards to the Toronto 20. Dark Angel at the tackle. Toronto would get an offside 5-yard penalty. So they go from the Toronto 22 to the Toronto 17. So they really move up 3 more yards on top of that. Harris passes to Weeb for 17 yards for a touchdown. Riders. It's now a 3-point game. This could go down to the clock or go down to the last, whoever touches it last. So with the extra point, it makes it a 2-point game. .936 left in the fourth quarter. Hale kicks off for 78 yards to the Toronto 2. Isaiah Smith returns it for 12 yards to the Toronto 14. Kelly passes Coxie for 3 yards to the Toronto 17, so it's 2nd and 7. Kelly passes to Polk for 19 yards to the Toronto 36. Eduardo with the tackle. So it's going to be 1st and 10 for Toronto at the 36-yard line. Kelly passes to Hicks for 3 yards to the Toronto 39, so it's going to be 2nd and 7. Sales with the tackle. Kelly rushes for 5 yards to the Toronto 44. Pate with the tackle, so it's going to be 3rd and 5. Actually, no, it's going to be 3rd and 2. They say 3rd and 1. That should be 3rd and 2. So Toronto's going to come and punt it away with a 2-point lead. Haggerty will punt it off for 41 yards. Weeby will return it for 8. McKenzie with the tackle, but there's a penalty for illegal block on the return for 10 yards. So it's going from the 25 to the 15. So 1st and 10 for the Riders on the 15-yard line. Harris pass complete to Johnson for 17 yards to Saskatchewan 32. Fumbled by Johnson, forced by Adarius Pickett, recovered by Pickett for 0 yards to Saskatchewan 32. So I should just go down. Kelly passes to Common for 8 yards to Saskatchewan 24. 2nd and 2. Hicks rushes for 3 yards to the Saskatchewan 21. Woods with the tackle. So it's going to be a 1st down, Argos. .438 left in the 4th quarter. Kelly to Common for 21 yards for another Toronto touchdown.
Yeah, once I cut the grass. The full fucking.
At the point I'm watching it, it's 39-31.
How come there's a late game today on the Sunday?
Because there's a 7 o'clock game on a Sunday.
Yeah, normally it's Thursday, Friday.
But it's the summertime, so they have 4 games.
Oh.
Once it comes August, then they won't have the 4 games. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Sometimes they have a 1 o'clock during the day and 7 o'clock at night.
Not on a Sunday, they don't.
No, on a Saturday.
Maybe on a Saturday, but not on a Sunday. Today's Sunday. So 4:27 left in the 4th quarter. So 40-31, down by 9 with 4:17 left. Haralahu punt kicks off for 67 yards to the Saskatchewan 13. Johnson returns it for 24 to the Saskatchewan 37. Trevor Harris, 26 for 32, 314 yards, two touchdowns and an interception. Four minutes to go. Harris passes incomplete to Weeby at the Saskatchewan 42, so it's 2nd and 10. Harris incomplete to Schaefer Baker. So there's a penalty on Saskatchewan time count before the 3-minute warning. So they go back 5 yards. Chapman punts for 51 yards to Toronto 27. Janarian Grant with the return of 0 yards to Toronto 27. Hicks rushes for 0 yards to Toronto's 27. Riders used their last timeout. Kelly passes to Hicks for 2 yards. Hicks fumbles it. Evans recovers it. So what's the official call on this penalty? Come on. Face mask on Saskatchewan. They go up 15 yards, and it's a first down for Toronto. .242 left in the fourth quarter. Isaiah Smith rushes for 2 yards to the Toronto 44. Woods with the tackle. 2nd and 8. Isaiah Smith rushes for 1 yard to the Toronto 45, so it's going to be 3rd and 7. Tackled by Thurman. 3rd and 8. Should be 3rd and 7, but Haggerty punts it for 57 yards to Saskatchewan 8. Weeby with a 2-yard return and Pickett with the tackle. So 1:48 left in the 4th. Saskatchewan needs a quick score and then get the ball back to win. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson, incomplete. 2nd and 10. Harris passes to Jay Johnson for 23 yards to Saskatchewan 23. Cameron Judge for the tackle. Harris passes to Jay Johnson for 11 yards to Saskatchewan 44. Minute 29 left. Saskatchewan has no timeouts left. Toronto has 1. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson for 9 yards to Saskatchewan 53. 2nd and 1. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson for 8 yards to the Toronto 49. Cameron Judge with the tackle. Harris passes Keyshawn Johnson for 17 yards to the Toronto 23. Judge with the tackle. I don't see. First and 10. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson for 9 yards to the Toronto 40. Judge with the tackle. Harris passes to Keyshawn Johnson for 17 yards to the Toronto 23. Judge with the tackle. Harris passes to Jay Johnson for 7 yards to Toronto 16. 56 seconds on the clock. Second and 2. There's a flag on the play, but it's Harris incomplete to Mims at the Toronto 2. But there's a penalty for holding on the offense. Ferdlin going from the 16 to the 26. So it's second and 13. $46 seconds. Down by 9. Harris passes to Johnson for 9 yards to Toronto's 17-yard line. Hale comes out for a field goal. Hale gets a field goal. Makes it a 6-score game. 34 seconds left. You got to do an onside kick. Hale kicks an onside kick, 26 yards to Toronto 54. Limana returns it for 0 yards. Kelly takes a knee to end the game. Kelly and the Argos hand the Riders their first loss as both teams move to 2-1. So we're going to leave it there, as I'm going to be back in an hour and 14 minutes for the Ottawa Montreal game. Shout out to Canada, who made it to the round of 16 after beating South Africa and extra time, injury time, I should say. So shout out to our Canadian soccer team. But I do appreciate everyone for stopping by. Join us in an hour and 16 minutes as we have the Ottawa Montreal game. But this is Rick from Hamilton Sports Central, and have yourself a great rest of your day.